Hey folks, it's Blammo. I'm Jeremy Kirkland. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. We all hanging in there. Are you feeling the blues? Are you feeling weird? Just kind of wandering through life aimlessly, buying coats, trying to fill that hole in your heart? Well, you're in the right place. Yeah, I too have been navigating this quite a bit. A little bit of retail therapy, a little bit of just a little bit of therapy too in general. I got a new therapist. It's going quite well. We're chitting the chat, getting the cries on. Look, folks, it's okay. We're gonna figure all this out. We're gonna get it together. Either one big fit at a time, maybe one new record at a time. Name it. It's gonna get better. It's getting better all the time. At least I'm gonna keep telling myself that. But look, positive vibes. PVO. Okay. All right. So speaking of, it's hard not to feel good when you're chatting with my guest this week. I'm going to say this. He's going to be like, no, I'm not. But he is. I would say that they are the kings of funk. They're up there. People are going to say, oh, these other, nope. Chromeo. Dave won from Chromeo, man. I have loved Chromeo for ages. They just know what they're doing. They put on a tight show. They're great writers, great arrangers, that's a high compliment. It's hard to do that. And they got great style. So Dave One is here. Oh man, this was a great chat. And I'm going to say this too, because people are like, oh man, you have lots of musicians on, you have comedians, or what about this designer again, or what about this? All of these people to me fit in this world of style and fashion and good taste. And it's all in there. And I'm just so glad that Dave came and joined us. So Dave and I chat all about Chromeo. We chat about building a solid wardrobe, when to stop copying, which is very interesting. He shows a lot of restraint, which I'm still learning. Being happy, and John Mayer calling out his watch game. It's all in there. Let's dig in. Here we go. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. It's been awesome to continue to watch you, like, in the best possible way, just like refine in terms of Chromeo and the band and what you guys have done. So I think my hat's off to you for not being put in the box where you constantly have to change your sound, change your thing to adjust to whatever, the industry is.
Yeah. We've been fortunate. A lot of the sounds have adjusted to us, sometimes in less than subtle ways, but we're okay with
right?
that.
No, I mean, that's very real. Like, because I mean, I've seen you guys play a handful of times, and I feel like it's always been, it's a tight show, but it's always been responsive to the audience.
Yeah, extremely. Yeah. So with us, it's always been in this interesting space because we really are at the crux of kind of a band and an electronic music duo.
Yeah.
So when Chromeo first came out, in festivals and so on, they would put us in the electronic tent. So we really had to sort of hone our live show, sort of playing, our first Coachella was like Simian Mobile Disco and then us and then Justice, in 2008. So, yeah. So we had to make sure the music read as electronic, even though P and I were playing guitar and bass and talkbox and singing and keys and stuff. So we always kind of had to articulate the two. And the way we do it is that when we play as a duo, there are tracks and then we play all our stuff over it and around it. But then there's a lot of crowd participation.
Oh yeah.
There's that improv stuff. And then there's obviously kind of the crowd call and response. And then so there's just enough, but at the same time, the light show is extremely time-coded and synced and rigorous in a way that reads a lot more electronic than band. And it's, and this is also something that we really refined over the years.
Yeah.
And that we still kind of tweak from tour to tour, not even from album cycle to album cycle. So we just finished a tour now and we sort of tweaked a lot of the light programming and some of the MIDI stuff, but then at the same time, then we loosened some songs and we took time code out, so it's just always this thing. We've done one tour with a live band once.
Okay.
And that was kind of more of a formal experiment. It was 2019, but that was also like kind of, it was also an experiment, and it also had some humor built into it, some music nerd humor built into it, because I find that a lot of the modern funk and disco
Yeah.
bands try so hard to be like quote unquote tasteful. But when you listen to our favorite funk and disco bands throughout most of their career, they were playing like gospel players.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, if we're going to do Chromeo live band edition, I don't want it to sound like a band of Bushwick natural wine drinkers. I want it to sound
Sure,
like,
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I want it to sound. They're great. By
They're
the way.
fine. Yeah.
They're amazing. But I want to go the opposite of that. I always wanted to go the opposite of that. So I want it to sound like, the Steve Harvey band circa 1996.
Okay.
So we went full gospel, and lo and behold, that's what the New Power Generation sounded in 1995. You know what I mean? So, and our blend of Minneapolis funk and kind of electronic actually lent itself really well to this very like overly ornate 5-string bass, motif, keyboard, splash cymbal kind of funk. And it ended up being kind of funny and dope because again, like if you listen to latter day Prince, that's what they sound like.
Yeah.
And growing up, P and I always hated that stuff, but then we kind of thought it was funny. The same way growing up, when we were little hip hop kids, we thought that, 70s Cameo was cooler than 80s Cameo. But then when we started Chromeo, we realized that obviously 80s Cameo is much doper than 70s Cameo. So, we're always kind of playing with different levels. And actually to tie into what you were saying at the beginning, this idea of us, sort of constantly reiterating our thing. It's also like it's not, to me at least, or to us, it's not constantly just like, oh, let's do another iteration of the shtick over and over again.
That,
That's amazing too, though. Like a lot of bands do that and they do it super well. And I love them for it. But just on the inside for us, it almost feels like a constant, exciting process of rediscovery. And it's a little bit hard to explain from the outside. When I was a lecturer and when I was like teaching kids up at Columbia and Barnard, you would have to teach like the same Baudelaire poem semester after semester, right?
Yeah.
And you could keep your notes from semester to semester and then it kind of becomes rote, right? Or you could find new ways to flip it or to teach it in a different way on each semester.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of idea of repetition with a difference or, homage with a different layer of subversion every time, to us, that is just as exciting as reinvention.
Well, and I think what you were saying earlier about like people kind of catching up to you, that I remember seeing you guys for the first time and I had met you and I was like, I love the like electronic thing. And let me say this, you were very polite, but you were like, no, man, funk. And it was not rude in anything, but I was like, oh shit. And cause I kind of was like, I don't think I know funk.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
it wasn't an indie word back then,
No, it wasn't at all.
But we were doing it on purpose, like we were.
Well, people were like, "Oh, you're not like Rat-a-tat."
and we really wanted. There's a part of us that kind of wanted to troll the indie cognoscenti, and we were very aware of it. And I think it was an interesting. It was a really interesting dialogue at the time, and I actually miss the indie cognoscenti because obviously all that. Oh, there's not much of it left.
Damn it!
Right?
No, you're right.
Between layoffs and also just like whatever happened to current music journalism, and I miss that. I miss that tone. I miss people, going to bed really convinced that Grizzly Bear is the best thing on earth because like they're not wrong.
They're doing a reunion. I don't know if you.
Yeah, and I love Grizzly Bear, and I'm not saying these people were wrong. No, yeah. I just miss that candor. You had a legion of people waking up in the morning being like, "New Animal Collective just dropped. Stop the press." And like, I miss that so much because it's a level of candor, of sincerity, of excitement. And I think all of us have become based Lana. I guess you could call the sort of current state of mind for people who like to think about music, think about culture, and be a little bit cynical but smart and like good art or whatever. There's that kind of that's the
everyone that got the Cindy Lee record, on day one.
Yeah. And I haven't listened to it for that reason yet.
You got to carve out a good 3.5 hours, but it is fantastic.
Yeah, but I'm waiting for it to decant a little, you know? Um, so, but there's a thing where like I miss this kind of imaginary dialogue or real dialogue that we could have with that musical scene and musical sort of zeitgeist, for lack of a better term, where candor and sincerity and conviction really were felt, and then P and I could kind of play around with that, and put some funny lyrics in there, but then at the same time, like, be really sincere about our craft, and then have like outlandish videos, and like, the fader would be like, how are they getting all this money? And like, we didn't have it. It was just more, it was like this really cool dialogue at a point in time. And I'm not trying to be the old head to say that dialogue, that it's now is worse. It's just that like institutionally, there's an institution that disappeared.
Yeah.
That's why I'm happy to do stuff like this, is that there's an institutional disappearance, right? Music journalism.
Yeah. And I think it's also because there is a tiny bit of people who love to still argue over Dylan, and argue over, but I don't think it's definitely not as big as what it was. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that like, you
mean over Bob Dylan?
Yeah, over Bob Dylan. I'm just saying like people that want to get into the weeds and argue over music.
No, but we're talking about, this is Bob Dylan's fine. There's a bunch of people where are the people arguing about Rat-a-Tat's sophomore album? That's what I'm talking about. That's what we were a part of.
No, I mean, I agree. I'm just saying, I think that
I miss that.
I think there's still a small amount of people there who are still going to Brooklyn Vegan all the time and are still going to those blogs. But yeah, you're right. It's gone. There's a large part of it that's gone, and that doesn't, I remember like the 3 a.m. Pitchfork drops would affect the rest of the week. And that was, and it was funny because we didn't care, but I had friends who would like lose sleep if their album got shot on. But P and I was like, bro, I hope they hate us. And I was like, P, you guys did pretty well on Pitchfork all the time.
The last one, the one from this year, the one before got shattered on.
Oh, okay.
But even when the one from this year came out, I had to go in their comments and be like, guys, like, thank you. Like, I just missed this. I wish there was more of this, because like you can chat GBT an album review, dude. Like, and pretty well, actually, like write me a good 2000s indie review. It'll come out pretty good, honestly, especially now that you can feed it your own stuff.
But it sounds, so you like getting into that, at least, because another example, like you did a thing with Hodinkee.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, those comments were crazy. I got into those comments.
I was gonna say, yeah, you and I both. I mean, because I was put in Hodinkee for a whole other thing, which I don't even know if we want to go into. But you were in there and you were like, listen, folks, like don't knock my bits.
I was having so much fun in there. It was so fun. And actually I made great friends in there. And I made comment section friends. And then there was also people who were like, they were so funny because there were some people who were like protective and patronizing. Like, one day you're just in the beginning of your journey, and one day you, like me, will lust after the Paul Newman. Okay. It'll come. It's a part of your journey. And like me, you gave me a Paul Newman, I'll sell it. I wouldn't know what to do.
You're like, I'll take $200K. Let's go.
I literally, I donate it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't want it. But it was funny. It was actually sweet in a way. And but again, it's that candor and that passion and that sincerity. And I think that now, because we're all #based Lana, right? We're like, yeah, whatever, bro. What does JD Vance wear? Ha ha ha. Or we're just like, I don't need to watch Times a Flat Circle, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're just so jaded, cynical, and battered by 8 years of messed up current events. We're also older, and but you know what I'm saying? There's just not, there's the indie gravitas is a little bit shriveling. The indie candor is shriveling. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden the norm has become to kind of be a little bit cocky, or be a little bit too self-aware, or be a little bit like bashful, but are they joking or are they not? Or, it's that sort of posture, which P and I kind of I don't know. I'm not saying it's just, I guess I want to say that like, there's this kind of institutional shift, and also this tonal shift that makes me nostalgic for a certain dialogue that has been lost. That's where,
and I would definitely call out the fact too, that I think you and Chromeo as a whole, like you and P are confident. And I think there's a
Yes.
lot of artists who still, I mean, I have friends who are in bands and people who are in different levels of success. And at the end of the day, they're terrified, and I think,
I mean, I go through my phases.
Sure.
I've been public about my mental health struggle, but yeah, we come off as confident. A friend of mine who's a musician who has become friends with us, used to be like, yeah, you guys are a little scary or whatever. And I'm like, P and I are like the two friendliest guys. And
you smile through the majority of your show. What are you talking about?
I do. I know. And I remember Alain, my brother, Alain A-Track. And I'd be like, back in the day, I'd be like, yo, why are like all these like super indie people, like, why are they always like kind of like, shooting little darts at us? I wonder still after 10 years, like I get it. At Fancy Foot, when we're signed to Vice Records, I get it. I would have shot a dart too. But like, it's, this was like, I was like, it's been 10 years. Like, I feel like we've gotten, and Alain was like, yeah, it's because you're tall. You're just tall. And then I started thinking, I was like, I feel like a lot of the tall indie musicians get darts thrown at them.
Okay. I'll explore this. I'm trying to think who are the other.
The Strokes. The Strokes are tall.
Yeah. Strokes are tall.
Jack White tall.
Jack White is kind of tall. Yeah, you're right.
All these people, right? I feel, I don't know this for a fact. Wouldn't be surprised if Father John Misty were tall. He reads as tall.
He does read as tall.
He reads as tall. Everybody who's tall, I think it intimidates people somehow. I don't know. There's something to explore.
I think that and just confidence. Like you guys are good.
Yeah.
You're good. You're not cocky, which now almost gets interpreted as being cocky. You know what I mean? Isn't that weird? And it's like, and I think also like, to go back, like you believe in your stuff so much that it's contagious amongst people who may not get it yet. And I think that's a super incredible place to be.
From your mouth to God's ears, I hope that's true. And I think that's why, perhaps in a slightly cocky way, I hope not, when I met you, I was like, nah, it's funk. Because we definitely wanted to be part of a musical movement that made funk less of a dirty word, because when we came out, funk wasn't, people weren't using that. And now they use funk every time there's a bass line. But like,
hey, a real instrument.
Yeah, or just like any kind of groove is called funk now, but like it wasn't the case, And it's funny. Actually though, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we reference on the last album wasn't even that funk. Actually, it's like the Snake started, we kind of got self-referential because on a lot of the inspo we were drawing from for the last album was actually, 2010s indie stuff that we kind of missed, because I'm nostalgic for that music, even though, I sound like someone who's deeply nostalgic, but there's a lot of stuff today that I find really cool and really inspiring. And,
like,
I mean, I really hope, I haven't met him yet. And I think I'm probably going to meet him soon, but like, I hope McGee is tall. That'd be cool. He'd be a good tall indie king for us to rally behind. Cause he's confident.
Yeah.
He's cocky. Okay. They're not shitting on him yet because he's still on the come up, but now that he's really up, maybe they'll start.
Yeah.
And then it'll be a good time for him to be tall and like a hunk, which he already he's had his glow up. So I feel like tall, McGee, shirtless glow up. This is he's the hero we need right now. I mean, he's definitely my favorite musician. And but yeah, there's a ton of stuff that comes up on my radar that I save. And, I like all the stuff I like Magdalena Bay. I love them. And I love the new Caribou album and things that you wouldn't think.
Oh, shit. Okay.
His new shit's fire. Yeah, it's fire. It's flawless. I love Fortet. There's all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't think I love.
Kieran.
Yeah. That, and a lot of these people I've actually never met. And I love them, and I can't wait to meet them one day.
Wait, has there never been a Chromeo Kieran crossover?
I wish. Actually, that's a lie. He played with us at Red Rocks one year, but I never got to really kick it with him.
He listens to this. And Kieran.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people that I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And I make it a point to give them their flowers in interviews because, I don't know, like it just, I feel it feels good to hear. And also, I've been a fan this whole time.
And I think also, like, do you look at the tenure of your career too, and as a way to like give you gas when things are weird? Because it's like, yo, you've been in this for a long time. Like, you're still relevant. You're still making good music. And so whenever there's a weird day, you're just like, yo, let me go back and see that, like, I've been in this for this long. I'm not going anywhere.
It feels good to know that, and it's like, it feels good to know that Obviously, you're catching me on a good day for the most part. Tomorrow won't be a good day, but today's a good day. You're catching me on a good day. You're cool. Like I don't know if she's listening, but like, our publicist, like she always puts me in a good mood. She's got a great vibe. Like so I'm in a good mood. So I feel like handing out flowers. There's other days where I'm a little more freaked out about our career or more uncertain about it. And it has been a long time, and it is a constant challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what I want to do next year, but I don't know what I'm going to do the year after that. Not sure musically. And even so, like, there are scary things, but then like there's really fun surprises that happen. Like we had our first TikTok trend that was huge, for the last month.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
And that's so like, it feels so good,
But how much did it take to sell you on that? Because I doubt it was much
to sell me on
to
that?
Sell you on just using TikTok.
I don't have it on my phone.
But like you guys interact and you have it. Like,
yeah, I go on my girlfriend.
Because I think here's the other thing.
I go and I write comments and I heart stuff and I say things and I repost it, but I don't have it on my phone. And there's a team that'll, like, if I make a video and a piece of content,
they cut it up. Okay. So
no, I cut it up, but they put it up.
Because I think that there's also, I have friends in music that they're like, dude, no, I'm not messing with that. I'm too old. I'm done. Forget it. And you guys did that. It doesn't appear begrudgingly.
I'm still super hungry, and I still am like, oh, this is awesome, and I'm touched by it. And we've never had the transcendent hit, and so we're still hungry, and you never know what form it'll take.
But you've had enough of the success and continue to that you're not like, oh man, we're fighting a losing battle.
I hope not.
No,
I hope not.
No.
Depends what day you catch me on. But yeah, I hope not. I mean, the thing is, like, this is what's really where we're really lucky is that P and I never really argue much anymore, and we love making music together, and that's. I'm not very woo-woo, but that's where it gets a little bit woo-woo to me because that doesn't happen a lot.
No, it's true.
That you have a duo that still has so much fun getting together and making demos and goofing around. Yeah. And if I write lyrics, it makes him laugh and all that. Like, I really, that's the only thing that I hope stays. And I hope, we get better at what we're doing, but there's not a lot of that. And I think that we kind of got lucky there.
And I think for a lot of people, even people that I know that may not be listening to your music all the time, like you as individuals have a vibe. Like you're cool. You look like rock stars at all times. Which still, I'm always like, man, how did you, as a person who loves fashion, I mean, this is like, I talk about this obviously all the time. You've never strayed from the classic heady look.
Because he's my biggest influence in music too. It's the same thing. Look at what he's doing. So I was going to mention him, right? Yeah. And like he has the same, he does iterations, if you want to call them like that, of the same silhouette. But like with every collection, he rediscovers, let's say, like the black blazer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like that. P's like that. And he doesn't realize it because he doesn't really follow that stuff closely. But P's like that with like a funk beat and a funk bass line. Like, and if I pull out a demo from P from 2009, it's got a funky beat and a funky bass line. And if I pull out the one he sent me last week, it's got a funky beat and a funky bass line. And he is as excited as for both. And for him, there's this thing about repetition with a difference where it's constant search for not only perfection, but something that feels new and stimulating in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And that's a driving force. And say for someone like Eddie, I mean, I read a few interviews. I read enough interviews of him to know that this is what he loves. He's like, I have a silhouette that I sort of invented and defined, and I love redefining it over and over again. And, DJ Premier was like that with his, in the height of DJ Premier. I mean, he still is like that. And it's just crazy. He was God to me. And now, like, we're Instagram friends, but like peak DJ Premier era when we were teenagers, I assume you're more or less my age. Every Premiere beat sounded like a Premiere beat, and yet it sounded fresh. And there's that thing. And that's what stimulates us. That being said, like, there are a few fashion missteps. I always clown myself and troll myself for it. And, there's been like a short-lived Fedora period, but
hey, he did it too, man.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. For the most part, yeah, I kind of had my thing and stuck to it definitely for like at least 15 years now. And P's more of a chameleon, so he can kind of, you could play dress up with P and he looks good.
He's in on the big fits. He's got some good fits, and there's Because I feel like
Oh, yeah.
he's not that you haven't evolved. I've seen his style differ from here and there, where it's like, all right,
Yeah,
he's wearing
yeah.
really baggy clothes here. He's wearing slimmer stuff. He's wearing this old, because so much of his stuff is like vintage, you know?
Yeah, he likes, well, he's more of a dress up doll because everything looks cool on him. So he can dress like, he can dress like a Queensbridge rapper from the
Yeah,
90s.
sure.
And then he loves also dressing like, Gaddafi. Gaddafi is a big fashion influence on him. So he dresses like Gaddafi, or he'll do, or now he really likes this sort of kind of regional Mexican look, so like bedazzled blazer and cowboy boots, and it looks good, and then puts a do-rag and it looks good on him. So yeah, and I've been playing around too, like more kind of 70s tailored like slacks and stuff.
Have you gotten to other brands that aren't like heady adjacent?
They don't fit me.
Because did you ever get into like, say, like Edward Sexton suits or stuff like that kind of have that?
I saw them, but there's always like design stuff to them. I don't know. I'd have to check that. But sometimes they have a design that like they try to do it to subvert the classic thing. And I find that design makes it of the moment, whereas it should look eternal. Like sometimes you'll have like a suit like that's like really tailored, but then on the lapel there's like the peak is wrong, or like the shoulders weird, or the length of the sleeve. Like there's something that doesn't look vintage about it. To me, I like when it looks like kind of classic. And then when you wear it for 10 years, because I keep my stuff for like 10 years, 12 years. I still have stuff that I bought like in 2009 that I still wear.
Damn.
It just looks vintage. Yeah.
Yeah. I have some old Dior, because I remember I moved to New York in 2004. And one of the first things I did, I was living in the Lower East Side and I didn't have a ton of cash. But I went up to Dior Homme and I bought some of the 19 centimeter made in Japan, like denim. And I was like, this is it. They were $600. It fucking knocked me out. But I was like, this is it.
Wear it again. Wear them. You'll see.
Well, they don't really fit me so much anymore. Don't have the same body I did when,
but I bet you they would look good. You could, my first thing up there was, I bought a suit, a black suit. And, I didn't have, I had no money. And I think was like a $200 limit on my ATM. And I had to go to the bodega ATM for like 11 days in a row. And like, I showed up there with like crumpled 20s, and the guys were like, dude, what did you do? Like, and I was like, I don't know. I'm a grad student at Columbia, if you must know, and I have a band you never heard of. But yeah, and I just paid for it with crumpled, and same. It just destroyed. But for me, it was also like, oh, this is cool because like it looks good on skinny people, and I could like, if I saved for long enough, I could afford a thing or two. But I thought it was just cool to have something that looks good on skinny people, and that makes you feel like a musician when you wear it. I guess it's
true. I don't really know many other fashion brands, even now. Like what is, I don't know, like Paul Banks is a buddy from Interpol, and him and I will talk about this, in which I'm like,
see, I never met him either.
Dude, Paul is the real deal.
And he left comments on our Instagram, because we've been doing these reels on Chromeo's Instagram. I don't know if you've seen them, where we do all the songs.
You're doing like a song exploder type vibe thing on there.
Yeah, we
so
are.
Good.
We are. Paul left a comment on there, and I was like, oh, that felt cool. Like he knows who we are. That feels good to know, because they're amazing. But you were saying he's a friend of yours and something.
Oh yeah, no, he's a buddy, and I always try to see like what is the shit that he's wearing, because I feel like for me, I'm a little bit too chameleon. Like I don't really know often what my style is. Like I was in Japan in the spring, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm getting all these big fits. I'm doing this.
It's tough, right?
And like you
just got to be stubborn.
Yeah, I don't know how to, like, I'm so not confident that I don't know how to stay into my own style.
I can help with this. I can help with this. I can help with that. I can help with that. But you just have to, I don't know. Here's what I would say. Like, you're not going to wear that Loewe thing in 3 years. It's going to look crazy.
This is true. I literally junked like half my wardrobe the other day, and it had to have been maybe 10 grand worth of stuff.
Okay. Did you grow up rich? Because
I grew up with nothing. In fact, it's made me worse, because anytime I get money, I'm like, fuck you. Don't tell me I can't have it. I'm going to go get the thing. And
I'm with you. I'm with you. But why don't you get some?
Wait a second. I got to get my bids in on the Bezel app, but more on that in a minute. I get all sorts of emails and questions from you all, which I love to read and respond. And one thing I constantly get, and even read in the Blamo Slack, is what watch should I buy and where should I get it? It's a wild world out there with all sorts of websites and shops, but I go to Bezel. Bezel is the trusted marketplace for buying and selling your next luxury watch with expert in-house authentication on every purchase. First off, folks, it's getbezel.com. That's getbezel.com. But I use and recommend Bezel because it's the best of both worlds. You can go to the site and browse a marketplace of luxury watches, over 16,000 of them, by the way, which is a lot. And I know that Bezel is going to authenticate your purchase. Or you can create an account and get connected with your own private client advisor, called the concierge. Because look, making a watch purchase can be confusing, especially when you don't know all the reference numbers. When was this made? Did they use ceramic then? Is it a triple lop, dingle top? What the heck? I don't even know. But they do at Bezel, and they're here to help. Concierge, baby. Look, if looking for your watch to mark a special occasion, or maybe you're just doing research, right? They even have their own journal where you can learn all the ins and outs about Bezel and the brands and all the stuff that's happening right now. But back to my bids. Yes, Bezel now has auctions, and not just any auctions. They got Rolex, they got Cartier, they got Audemars Piguet, all the big dogs and more. So you can discover, bid, and know the Bezel team has got your back with verified in-house authentication. So visit getbezel.com on your smartphone or computer. Bezel, the trusted marketplace for buying or selling your next luxury watch. Psst, you think you know the Casio G-Shock? Guess again. Thanks to its legendary toughness and timekeeping autonomy, it's no secret why the mighty G-Shock has earned its place on the wrists of weekend warriors, first responders, and military personnel the world over. But look, there are levels to this stuff, and there's a premium collection of Japanese-made G-Shock watches made for the folks who crave the top shelf for everything in life. These are for the big dogs, the heads, the OGs, which is why it's called the MR-G. This flagship line of G-Shock timepieces takes the most cutting-edge technology that G-Shock has to offer and blends it with the highest levels of craftsmanship and traditional Japanese artistry. We're talking about hybrid titanium case construction with artisanal armor-like flourishes, all honed like the edges of a samurai sword. Look out! Only the most iconic references in the G-Shock collection get the coveted MR-G treatment, from the original square case digital reference from 1983 to the beloved analog Frogman dive watch, all the way up to the newest fan favorite, the MRG B2100 with its octagonal bezel and its wild interlocking beams dial. Ready for a deep dive into the premium MRG collection from G-Shock? Discover the full range this holiday season at Topper Jewelers. And while supplies last, mention this ad to receive a special thank you gift with your G-Shock purchase. I can't tell you what it is. All I can tell you is that it's great. The MRG collection from G-Shock. Check it out at topperjewelers.com.
Get something forever. Get a forever thing.
Yeah, that's what I get into watches. So that's my other thing, which is, whatever.
Right. What's your everyday watch?
My everyday watch? Lately, I just got this 1970s Cartier Vendôme, which is like an enamel dial. I don't know. I got into, a friend of mine's like a watch TikTok dude, this Mike, who's like basically kind of.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know Mike. I know Mike from
DJ days.
as an open format.
Yeah,
DJ. as a great open format.
He is. He was very good. Yeah, but he got me more into Cartier. But to be honest, like I have a Rolex Daytona that took me maybe a decade to get. That I've been buying and collecting watches for eons, and it helped pay for our down payment of our house from selling watches. Like just I'll be honest. I live in the Midwest, so it wasn't a big down payment, but at the same time, just like.
That's amazing. Okay, so you're really into it.
Well, I think, I won't make this too much about me, but I came from nothing. I moved to New York to play music. The plan was to get and play music. And
Cool.
Ezra, I think, had just gotten signed. And I remember he came to a couple of our shows at Cake Shop. And this is when Ross was there.
I played Cake Shop. So what was your band's name?
It's fucking so bad. It's called Jackson Knife. Worst fucking band name of all time.
That's weird because I was pretty tapped in. Like I would have known.
Yeah, it was. We sounded like wannabe Britt Daniels, the Shins with like.
Okay.
I think we had a violin, and then someone said we were like Arcade Fire, and we're like, no, we're not. This is like CMJ 06.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love that. So our first tour was us opening for the Unicorns and Arcade Fire opening for us. So it was first of three was Arcade
Yeah.
Fire, then us, then the
So this would have been
Unicorns.
pre-funeral, right?
This was pre-funeral. That was our first tour. And then our first headline show in New York was Cake Shop. I love that time period. And that's an amazing story. And I get the Midwest thing. I get the watch thing. I get everything you're saying. But and I kind of got into watches a little bit. If I can be honest, I tapped out on the things I want.
But here's the thing. And this is like you in a nutshell, which I really, really love and admire. There's a level of confidence that maybe you're unaware of that is contentment. And I feel like the most happy people I've ever met in my life are people that are content. It doesn't mean that they don't have a drive to do things. It doesn't mean that they're not working hard or making art or whatever that is, but they're content. And I feel like because so much of my own drive is often rooted in not being content and being afraid of what I have or haven't accomplished. You know what I mean?
No, I have all this. And by the way, the happiness, first of all, thank you for saying all this. It's super touching and I'm honored. And it's like some of the sweetest things have been said to me. So I'm touched by what you're saying. I don't know if I'm happy. I live a lot of my life with this kind of neurotic suffering. You know, that's just my constitution. And I think in some ways my culture, and maybe it's intergenerational trauma, God knows what. I believe in all that stuff. So there's all of that. Mm-hmm. However, the contentment is like the contentment I can kind of feel to some degree. But like with watches, for instance, I love them, but like, okay, Cartier, a tank doesn't look good on me. I love the tank.
Really?
Doesn't look good on me. It looks like I'm wearing a wristband from a show.
Oh, we got to get you the right one. I mean? But I hear you.
I know all the right ones. I've tried all.
Okay. All right.
So I was like, all right, I want the first Santos, the original Santos that's completely square, that doesn't have any of the rounded edges. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I found it. I got it. So what am I don't need another one. I wear it here and there. I don't need another one. Then, I had a Rolex Journey, but every time I found another one that I liked better, I sold the other one because it was a quest, right? So I'm not going to keep, there's one that I regret selling, but like, I'm not going to keep my first entry level gold present because I would never wear it. It's crazy when I wear it. I look, so,
fair.
So I sold it. Then I got something else. Then I sold it. And now I settled on the one I have. And another one? No, I just sold my other one. And then I got into collecting art a little bit. And that's more.
Dude, that's the final frontier.
It kind of is. But it's, you see, it's like I got into that because I couldn't understand it at first. And I wanted to learn how to understand it. Right. And, there's one thing where I remember when we did Throwing Fits, because I know it's your boy, I got into a disagreement with them at the end because they were like, well, you either have good taste and you don't, or you don't. And I was like, first of all, guys, I've seen you in 2009, so don't tell me this because like you guys have evolved.
True.
And you have gotten more refined in whatever it is that you're pursuing and discerning. And second of all, a lot of your listeners feel like you guys are aspirational and you're motivating them and you're teaching them things. And third of all, taste is acquired. That's for everybody. Taste is acquired. Why do you think, first of all, my thesis was about, my unfinished dissertation was about that. But even on a metaphorical level, the reason why taste is called taste, which is a culinary metaphor, is that at first you don't like oysters. Then you start having a lot of oysters. Then you start learning about oysters and then you build discernment. At first, all the watches look the same. You just think it's rich people stuff. Maybe you can afford one. You buy your first Rolex. It's probably not the right one. And then you learn more about them and you discern, this isn't the right one. For my value system, this is the right one. 2 years later, this is giving beginner. I'm going to get this one. Then you can keep it if you're kind of, you want the accumulation, but you don't really have to. Because when you see me with my one, I only have one. You know that this is the best one for me at this time. You're like, this is the day, right? It's not the most, it's just perfect for what I'm doing, for where I'm at, and for where I'm at in my quote unquote journey, right? So taste is like that. It's like wine. It's like oysters. It's like, and it's a metaphor. The word is a metaphor because taste is developed and acquired. And so there's this really, really elitist and kind of fascist thing of like, you either have good taste or you don't. It's not true. I didn't know anything about furniture. I didn't know anything about fashion. I did not come from a wealthy family. I did not I knew nothing about contemporary art. I knew nothing about watches. I knew nothing about any of that. And I thought perfume, and I thought it was fun to learn about these little things and to develop my taste.
Yeah.
And it's the same with when you're a professor. Like these kids come in, they don't have the tools to appreciate a 19th century poem. So you gotta oyster them, all right, this is why this is interesting. Taste it. Okay. And then you just develop as you go. By the way, it's same with indie music.
Ooh.
I came in and I was like, this thing, TV on the radio, it's unlistenable. And then I started listening to more and more of it, and I got the codes to appreciate it.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. That's a very good point.
It's all like that. And that's why it's like this stuff is really supposed to be like inviting and inclusive and positive, and not to be Mr. Kumbaya. It's just not, I just feel like there's this very elitist, intimidating misconception of the notion of taste. Whereas if you had like a watch adventure, you understand that it's just about learning codes and then being able to master the codes enough to have your own judgment and be like, no, this is corny. This is a corny example. I don't think this is the right Cartier for you or for me. It's whack. And that doesn't, and that doesn't make you a fascist. It's just like, it's like some guy who will be like, bad oyster or like bad Merlot.
Yeah.
If you like it, cool, but let me walk you through it, and then you'll see why it's bad.
Damn, you're still a teacher, man. You can't run away from it. You're still a teacher.
Well,
are you connecting like Proustian or like concepts here?
I can.
Okay. We're getting there.
But it's the same. That's why you have to go. That's why it's fun when you go to the museum and just go to like the room where everything looks the same. If you have time, and get the audio guide, because we're looking at these. You look at these Venetian or Florentine Renaissance paintings, and you're like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
They all look the same. It's all a biblical thing. I don't know the Bible, or it's all a mythological thing. I don't know the myth they're referring to. Like, oh, cool. It's realistic. Oh my God. But you don't have anything. You don't have the tools. So the audio guide, or maybe a friend, they'll give you the tools and they'll develop your taste just the same way I bet you have that friend who are like, so what? You just like Rolex because they're expensive? And you're like, no. You just like Rolex because they're flashy? No. You just like Rolex because like it's a flex? No. Well, they all look the same anyway. What's the difference between? Well, let me walk.
Yeah.
And then you have this thing.
That's because I feel like that has been my like new level of adulthood, especially all my other friends who have have achieved different levels of whatever security, whatever we want to call it, and the new sort of journey for them is not so much us like trying to talk about whatever party or whatever thing we're trying to get into. It's constantly critiquing like our evolution of taste. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh man, I have a friend who's very into collecting wine now. And I'm like, what? Like that doesn't, how you got to take care of that? And you got to transfer. Yeah. He rents a wine cellar in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, cool. And I bet you like, for instance, me, I dislike natural wine, but it's for two reasons. Okay. First of all, and this I'm sorry to say, a lot of natural wine fans cringe me.
Okay.
They're cringe.
So there's a cultural association with people who
I should be better than this. I should be better than this. I know I should, but when I see them, it cringes me. And I'm just like, I don't want to, you guys are driving me insane.
Yeah. Okay.
Second of all, I feel like you should know normal wine before getting into the natty wine. But I feel like some people are leapfrogging. Mm-hmm. They're leapfrogging, Bordeaux core and jumping into funny label, funky fizzy core. And I'm just like, well, you're missing out on the real thing.
So you're a wine guy, huh?
Not so much.
But enough to have the conversation. Yeah.
To want to learn more.
Yeah.
But also my taste in natural wine hasn't been developed. So honestly, to my discredit, I haven't had the experience enough to be like, yo, this is actually kind of cool. But because I don't even like the, I'm the guy who's like, the salt tastes fizzy and I don't even like the labels. You guys annoy me.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the taste acquisition process for it. But then, I know enough about, say, French wines to know what I like. But actually, that's not even true because a crew member on my European tour put me onto like some Burgundy stuff I didn't know much about. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. So there's always new things to learn. And again,
where do you think that all that came from? Because the thing, you're so receptive and open to learning new things. That is a thing that is, I don't think that is the learn thing.
It was my job, bro.
Well, yeah, but I think also, do you think that came from your parents too? Because you had to get it. You don't get into the job unless some sort of cultivation.
Yeah. Can I be honest with you? I was the white kid listening who discovered hip hop.
Okay.
So I was an outsider and I was like, I want to learn about this. This is so cool. I was the I sort of was the kid who I think it was my, I was the kid. I mean, I know I sound so old, but like I was the kid who wanted to be a Beastie Boy, and those guys knew about old records, and they knew about fashion, they knew about skateboarding, they knew about New York, and I was in awe. And I think that muscle, and then studying literature and just having that curiosity, and yeah, maybe it's my parents instilled that value in me. And it makes life really fun. It makes life more fun, right? And so to kind of circle back to what we were talking about in the beginning, even though a lot of those old school indie cognoscenti gravitas, animal collective core people used to not love Chromeo or kind of be skeptical of Chromeo.
Sure.
I loved or made a real effort to love and understand the music that they were really into, even though it was hard for me to get at first.
You got to run for office, man.
We said we're not.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm mad. You're right.
But because I was like, this is not that good, and then I started getting into it, and I was like, yeah, I get this. This is cool, But yeah, I think your watch thing is a great example. I could give you an anecdote. I was an early adopter of the Vacheron 222. I was 2010. I wanted one.
Wow.
Yep.
They were like on par with like a standard, Day at the time in terms of in terms of accessibility, like to purchase the cost of them.
Nobody wanted them, but they were still too expensive for me at the time. It was like $20,000.
Oh, okay. All right, sure.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. It was even one I found when I think it was like 15, and it was like somewhere in Europe, and I didn't have that kind of money for a watch or for that watch. But I will say that I pride myself in being an early adopter of that one, or an early luster.
You're like, take that, Brad Pitt.
And I have 100%.
We got into that way late.
And I had a Steve McQueen, a big orange hand Steve McQueen Rolex. For a time, that was like my everyday one. And I actually regret selling that one. But then it didn't look good on me.
It served its purpose.
It served its purpose. And I used to wear it every day. And not a lot of people knew that watch. Right. Yeah. It's still kind of a bit of a rare bird weirdo watch. Yeah. And I was in LA at the time, and I don't ask, but I was tried going to the gym and doing the LA thing with the trainer. Yeah. And John Mayer was there. Oh. And I'm dressed like a
so you were at quite the gym.
I learned that later. And by the way,
yeah, you're okay.
Anyway, right. I didn't know any of this. I was a newbie. So I don't have much of a gym journey.
So Mayer's at the gym with you.
So he's there. I'm just like a total schlub. So even if he knew Chromeo, I wasn't in character then at the gym. So he goes he steps to me and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Huh?" He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean what I'm doing? It's my watch." He's like, "Do you know what this is?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "You know what this is, right?" I'm like, yes. Like Explorer 2, big orange hand, like Steve McQueen. And he's like, "Okay, just checking, because you look like someone gave this to you, like you inherited it from an uncle, and you don't know what it is, and you're wearing it at the gym."
Awkward first impression, Mr. Mayer.
No, well, but I get it, because that thing is probably something that to him
it's a head watch. Yeah, 1655, man, that's a serious head watch. Yeah,
but it's also it's for him, it's probably ugly and weird. And so he was like, "So you chose this?" And I was like, yeah, this is my everyday, this is the one I want. He was like, "This is what you wanted. You went and you sought this." I was like, "Yes." He's like, "All right." And he was like, "This is actually the only Rolex that looks retro, that looks almost dated mid-century, 70s or something." I forgot what he said. And I was like, "Yeah, that's why I wanted it." And he looked at me and I was like, "All right." He went back. But that was a funny interaction, with someone who sort of misread that this for me was exactly the statement I wanted to make.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's fucking great that happened too.
It's funny.
I mean,
it's a cute little story.
Yeah. I mean, because also, it is an incredible watch, but I think it also goes to show that the confidence to decide for yourself what it is and not double down on it, but be like, no, this isn't a big deal to me. I'm here. I got my watch on. What's
well, no, it was a big deal to me because never when I was a kid, that was not on the table.
Well,
nobody in my family has this, and you know what it is, but it's a big deal to me. But this was at that time, this was the apex of my taste climb.
Yeah.
This is where it led me to. I want this retro weirdo 70s, 1974 Rolex that nobody likes, or that very few people like, and certainly nobody wears.
So, do you get the most amount of joy then taking care of your folks? Because it sounds like if you didn't come from that and you got that.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're cool, like they're retired and stuff. But my brother and I love to spoil them.
Yeah,
and love to get them buy them things.
I take my mom out for
yeah,
dinner and I like just never let her touch the bill.
Yeah, of course. But then she never lets me touch the bill. But yeah, I love to spoil them when I can, when they let me. And yeah, we've gotten them some stuff and do still. And yeah, I think I love making them proud with our music, and I love playing them our demos, and
yeah,
it's and every band that we've ever interacted with, they follow as well.
Oh,
so if I introduce them to a band, then they follow that band. So they and I mean, Ezra went and hung out with them in Montreal on his tour stop.
like great.
They've become they're friends with a lot of my friends. Yeah, I was lucky to have them be super open-minded, because they didn't know anything about hip hop and they didn't know anything about DJing. And when my brother started scratching,
that's true,
using his bar mitzvah money to buy a Technics 1200, it only took about a month of convincing for them to be like, "Ma, I do this." At first they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then quick enough, they were like, "Okay, yeah, this is like this cool niche cultural thing. We're into it."
That's so great.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, obviously you're a parent, and I also, I wonder, like, when I have kids, like, what if my kids are like, "Dad, I'm listening to this band from your era. Do you like Incubus?" And I'll be like, "Oh boy." And it was probably like that when I was like, "Dad, do you like Frank Zappa?" And my dad was like, but like, we have to be, I might have to sit my kid down and be like, "Yo, develop my Incubus taste."
Yeah.
And I might be like, "Yo, I kind of
talk to me about Mr. Boyd here. His lyrics are interesting."
What's up with this guitar tone? Walk me through it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be like that, because that's how my parents were with Junior Mafia. I remember one time my dad, we had all these records in the basement, right? And one time my dad walked down and we were playing a Junior Mafia Players Anthem remix. And my dad walked and he was like, "I would make a beat like that."
Hell yeah.
Walking. Yeah. So like, point is, like, your kids, anybody, like, they got onto the taste journey.
Yeah.
And they even developed their own taste. Like, they they thought Common was good. They really, at the time where my brother was working closely with Kanye, they really understood what Kanye was going for and how he stood out.
That's such an amazing thing that they have. I mean, so I lost my dad in May, and he was no, it's okay. Thank you. He was a musician, and he played in a lot of bands, and he, wrote music and did a bunch of stuff. And the best stuff that I look back that he did is I didn't come from like a level of financial security, but I did, now in hindsight, I came from a level of emotional security, in the sense that, like, I always felt free and empowered to like what I like without fear of. Now, my dad would comment on stuff, because I'd be like, "Yo, check out this song. This is so good." And he'd be like, "This is Al Stewart, You're the Cat. Like, what are you doing?" Like,
oh man,
and I would be like, "Oh, okay." And then I would be like, "But Dad, you only show me old music." And my dad's like, "No, I love new music." And he's like, "I think Maynard James Keenan is an incredible musician." And I'm like, "Who's that?" And he was like, "This is Tool." And I was like, "What?" And weird stuff, right? And so he was open to both of those things, but he was always like, "Look, I get that you like Green Day, but I think what you like is that it's 3 chords and pop, not that there's like technological stuff in there." He's like, "That's okay. But if you want to get into that, you need to check this out. You need it." So he made this environment for me where
he was your professor.
Yeah, where it felt okay to explore other things, but also to learn what I was liking, and know that, like, if I brought it up to him, he wouldn't humiliate me. Now, he would come in my rooms occasionally and be like, "Hey, you're flat." And I would be like, "What?" He had perfect pitch. So he'd be like, "Hey, you're flat. Like, you don't want to do that." Or I'd be like trying to play a guitar solo or something. And he'd come in and he would just walk in and he'd grab my tuning peg on my Ibanez and he'd go, "Whoop." And he'd be like, "Now play your solo." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I know you didn't. I know it wasn't a tuning peg, because you had Floyd Rose on there.
I did have a Floyd Rose.
If you're my age, you had Floyd Rose. The tuning pegs aren't working, my friend.
I did have a Floyd Rose. Yeah, that's right.
Of course you did. Of course you did. I had one too. Could you believe that Floyd Rose is back and it's hipster now?
It's true. It is. I'm like, what do you want to
It's
lock in your tuning? Well, what are you talking about?
No, they love that shit, dude. It's hipster. It's straight
It
up
is
like
true.
the dude that plays with McGee live, the other guy. And I know he's like an amazing guitar player in his own right. I just don't know his name. But he's got straight up like he's got like a Charvel or
wow.
a Jackson with full Floyd Rose, and that's like the new indie thing. And I always had Boss pedals from high school up until now. I cannot tell you the 2 decades of clowning that I endured, especially when we're playing with indie bands, right? The whole 2010s when we were on sharing the stage with indie bands and they're looking at my multicolor Boss pedal board and they're like, right? Yeah. And because they've got their IPA Brooklyn miniature pedals that don't even sound like anything.
They all had DL4s that were breaking on stage anyway.
And I had my Boss pedal. And now look who came crawling back, dude. And I was like, I have Boss pedals and a rat. And there
you go. Is that's still your rig now?
Unfortunately, I have a Helix now.
Oh, good taste.
No, not even. Actually, not even. I actually heard. I don't know much about it, but I heard there's way cooler and better ones in that sort of world. But Boss was like an example of like good taste, bad taste, which is also cool, right? Which is
Overdrive was my first pedal, and then getting a distortion pedal,
it's huge.
Yeah.
What, like DS1? Yeah. That's now the new what's that really expensive distortion pedal that all the heads have that I
Tube Screamer or something?
No, it's thousands of dollars. I forget.
Oh, geez, I don't know. Yeah.
Anyways, the Boss DS1 is the new version of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're hip, dude. Now Boss pedals and Floyd Rose, and you're like, you've got a 9 on Pitchfork with those.
It's
and
true.
I used to get clowned. Oh, I used to get clowned. They'd be like, "What are you, 13?" And I was like, "I don't know. They still sound really good." Did. And then it came out that Prince only used Boss pedals.
Ooh. Probably the greatest guitarist that ever lived, in my opinion. Still,
right?
Just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, we always say this, like if Prince had just been a guitarist, he would have gone down in history, right? And I know it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of guitarists I love, and actually, I'm not on TikTok, but like guitar Instagram is really fun.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And I'm learning a ton of stuff on there. See, that's another thing is like I was never like a great guitar player, so I'm still learning all kinds of stuff.
You've always had good tone, though.
Yes. Yeah. Boss pedals. I take my tone super seriously, and I know what kind of solos I can do. Yeah. But there's stuff that I really know nothing of, so I'm learning these things that like I think a lot of guitar players should have learned earlier on. I think guitar pedagogy is really wrong.
Oh wow, that's
a whole other. It's a take, but it's wrong. Guitar pedagogy is horrible, especially when you're sort of our generation and you're learning like bar chords and stuff.
Everything is an A minor pentatonic scale because you wanted to play like, I don't know, Pearl Jam or whatever it was at the time.
Whatever it was, and it's horrible. And the first thing you need to learn, you should have learned, the first thing is voicings. And you should have learned, that's what we should have learned, the first thing. Because Because if you're a teenager and you learn those basic bar chord shapes, you think you've got the whole neck figured out. But then you realize like, oh wow, there's like 7 ways to play an A minor triad. What does that mean? I don't know.
All I do now is play Paul Simon stuff. Yeah. I mean, at least like to practice on my own. Like I play just,
I'm telling you, it's crazy. And I'm still learning that stuff because I'm so terrible. But yeah, yes, good tone. Thank you for recognizing that. I feel seen because that's like something I'm real particular about and sort of always was. But yeah, thanks. That means a lot. You've told me a lot of very sweet things. Happy I said yes to that.
Yeah, of course. Well, that being said, I want to be conscious of your time and let you get your day.
Okay.
But thank you. I absolutely, from the bottom of my heart here. But thank you again, man. I'll see you. You've been listening to Blamo. Our show is produced by Blamo Media. We're edited by Amar Lowell, and our theme music, as always, by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. If you like what you heard, you know the drill. Share the pod with a friend. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever other thing you're listening to us on, whether it's Dingledorp or Bing Bong, whatever it's called. But you can also follow us on Instagram for all the hot content. If you want to talk to us and give us your hot take, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at info@blamopod.com. Last but not least, super ultra important. If I had a air horn, I would press it right now. you got to come and join us over on Patreon, because the fun never stops over there. Look, the live show, the free show, whatever you want to call this, we take breaks here and there, but Patreon, it never stops. And we also got exclusive shows like Die Workwear, hosted by Derek Guy and Peter Zotolo, and the Triple J Show, hosted by yours truly with John Moy and Gene DeLeon. There's just a ton of stuff over there. So check it out at patreon.com/Blamo. If not, no worries. We got hundreds and hundreds of free episodes in the feed, and more to come. So we will see you all soon.